And a good morning to you all, and welcome to the starting lineup. Great to have you with us on, yes, an absolutely beautiful Wednesday in the Ozarks. Ned Reynolds joined by
Scott Purrier.
And for the next 2 hours, we are right here talking sports and whatever. And I'd like to hear from you, folks. 417-447-1021. That's the number to call for calling and text. Both the same, 447-1021. Starting lineup brought to you by Play It Again Sports. You just can't go wrong at Play It Again Sports, folks. It's in the Fremont Shopping Center, Battlefield and Fremont Springfield. Every single sports item available, trade-ins available, it's all there at Play It Again Sports. Also brought to you by Swing Right Golf at the south end of Campbell Avenue, a little bit north of Nixon. You can get the golf clubs out and get that swing down into perfection. That's Swing Right Golf. Citizens Bank of Rogersville with two roots. That's what they call their branches, roots. One is adjacent to Highland Springs and the other in Rogersville itself. And by Marshfield Chevrolet at the I-44 exit. A couple of left turns and you're right there at Marshfield Chevrolet. Beautiful morning today and cool. Oh, yeah, it is cooled off markedly so.
It feels so good out there. It felt like a fall morning. You know, it's trash day at our house in Nixon, taking the bins to the curb, and I'm like, my gosh, is this October? You know, and it just doesn't feel like what we've had. And it'll change. You know, by the weekend, we'll be back.
I can promise you it will. It's going up. As a matter of fact, I think next week they're calling for some of the hottest of the summer.
Next week, yeah, great. We're getting closer. Football is around the corner. Almost time to be able to talk about all kinds of stuff going on. So bear with us as we get there. But we got a great lineup today. We've got a couple guests coming in studio. As a lifelong OU fan, it's almost too much Husker for me to handle. And it will be basically an hour of Nebraska Husker talk. As Trevor Crist with the Missouri State Players Association, Football Players Association. They are the main fundraising arm for NIL and the things with the football Bears. Trevor will be in with us at 7:30. We're going to talk about the new date for the Casey Woods dinner. They changed things up. It was supposed to be, I believe, this Friday night, and they moved it back about a month. There's just so much going on in July with vacations and people at the lake and everything else that they've moved it back. So we'll talk to Trevor at 7:30. Trevor is a lifelong Huskers fan, and his dream boy coming in at 8 o'clock, Grant Wistrom, our old buddy from way back when at Webb City High School. And
now, this is interesting because he is here in the studio.
Grant is coming in studio.
He doesn't live here.
No, well, he's not living here. So they moved to Lincoln. You know, their daughter Charlie is playing soccer at Nebraska. Grant's got a tie that's bringing him back here, at least, I don't know if it's, we'll find out the living arrangements. I think he's still going to call Lincoln home, but Grant will tell us more. But anyway, of course, Grant was the multiple-time All-American defensive end at Nebraska, and then went on to a great NFL career with the Rams and the Seahawks and won a Super Bowl with each of those teams. So Grant will be in studio 8 o'clock. We'll have some we'll talk training camp with it coming around next week and training camp horror stories that maybe Grant has a little PTSD over, so we'll see how he feels about that. And then 8:30, Cam Stratton, the grandson of Coach Mark Stratton, former Glendale High School baseball standout, had a great season this past spring at Crowder, has committed to Eastern Kentucky. We'll catch up with Cam on his decision. And, the kid hit .375 this year at Crowder. That's in college baseball, if you're anywhere up in that almost pushing 400, that's a great
What
season.
Is the usual number for JUCOs to play?
In terms of what?
Baseball games.
Games, I think they played 61 at Crowder. Yeah, he had .375 with 11 homers and 52 RBIs, 10 for 10 in stolen bases, so he's not like his grandpa, looking there. But Cam Stratton and I don't
know. Mark will fool you, though.
You think he's got some speed in there?
Used to.
Used to, yeah. Well, Cam, I've known this kid since we formed that Twisters team back when they were 7 years old, and we played about 3 more years, and we were out. But then Cam was always playing a year up. So the Curry Sutherlands and Evan Vintages and Cale McCarvilles, all those guys, Gavin Beckners, they were always a year older than Cam, and you could never tell by watching him play. So we hear youth sports now, people having their kids play up a year. It can be beneficial. And I think Cam's one of those kids that by the time he got to high school, it was no big deal because he'd been playing up with older guys the whole time.
Scott, anytime you play anything at a regular basis, it's always beneficial.
Yeah.
Always.
And his competition level started at a high bar, because of that, and then he just carried right on. But we'll talk to him at 8:30.
I'm not familiar with them. Is Eastern Kentucky a D1?
They are D1, yeah, and I guess they're one of the up and coming programs. Facilities are great there. Isn't that where Moats is now?
I thought he was East Tennessee.
No, he's Eastern.
It is Eastern Kentucky.
All
right, it's one of the Easterns.
Absolutely, East somewhere. Yeah, there, and of course Rylan Michelle, who was the one of the infield mates with Cam at Crowder this year. He is committed to Angelo State, so good luck to him.
I know they're D1.
Yeah, and he had a great 2-year career down there as well. So anyway, that's our lineup. Trevor Crist at 7:30, Grant Wistrom at 8, and then Cam Stratton at 8:30 today on the starting lineup.
So what do you have for starting five?
Starting five? Well, we'll filibuster as best we can here. We'll go with a baseball, and if you're a Cardinal fan, you could go to bed early last night because they gave up 5 runs in the first, get beat 5-1 by the Angels, now have dropped the first 2 in the series out in Anaheim.
A series that this wise old man said they have to sweep.
You had them sweeping,
Yeah,
like 2 days ago.
And now they may get swept. I don't think they will. I think they win today, but by the same token, though, here, and there is a silver lining here because Liberatore, who got lit up in the first inning, stayed in the game. Now, there are 2 reasons why. Number one is to, hey, get over it. You had a down moment, see if you can come back. That's one of the reasons. The other is to save the bullpen. So he continued right up, and I think he threw 6 more innings, if I'm not mistaken, and to shut out the Angels the rest of the way now. Having said all that, the Angels are not very good, folks.
They're not. I mean, they've got some bad. They've got 2 pitching pieces, and the Cardinals will see one of them today in Reed Detmers that are very good live arms. The other one's Jose Soriano. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but trade deadline coming up August 3rd, I believe, is the end of the deadline, correct? I think.
August 3rd.
August 3rd, and or the start of the deadline, excuse me. And I think that those are 2 guys that because the Angels are so out of it, that there'll be an interest from teams that need pitching. And the Brewers could look at a Reed Detmers. I mean, this is a guy with strikeout stuff. I think he's top 3 in the American League in Ks, and that's a guy that can help some contenders down the stretch.
I wasn't familiar with the kid who pitched Urema, who was on there.
I wouldn't either. Walbert Urema.
Walberto Urema, and he pitched really well. He shut down the Cardinals, held them to 1 run, and I think he pitched 6 or 7 innings somewhere around there, and didn't strike out a whole lot of batters, but hey, he held them at bay, and that's what counts.
Liberatore struck out 7. We mentioned they gave up the 5 runs. I think he went 5 1/3. His ERA now.
I thought it was 6 1/3.
Was it? I'll double check that.
But regardless,
his ERA now is 5.18, and that's the worst I think of the Cardinals starters from a guy that they expected to be the ace. If there was anybody that was going to jump out, it was going to be him.
This guy is really curious the way he's a good pitcher. I really think he has a lot going for him, but he always seems to run into a roadblock somewhere, maybe the 5th inning, 6th inning. Last night it was the 1st inning. He just can't seem to be consistent about what he does. Now, he was consistent after the 1st inning. He was all right yesterday. But, again, that's not against a very good team.
And I can't remember who coined the phrase, they are who we thought they were. We've heard that in sports. It's kind of like you play to win the game. I think the Cardinals now are showing that they are who we thought they were. They're only 2 games above 500 now, 51-49. They're 11.5 back in the NL Central. They're a half a game back of the wild card now. These next 2 weeks or a week and a half will determine largely how big of sellers they are at the trade deadline. Wouldn't you agree? They're not buyers.
No question about it. I think next week will be a very pivotal week for them, and it goes right up until August 3rd, as you mentioned, on a Monday afternoon. But Bob Nightingale called this from the last time we visited with him. He said, look, they're playing well. They're riding that magic carpet and really getting things going right for them. Well, they aren't going right for them right now, and he said, this is Nightingale, that the pitching will be the determinant factor with them.
They are what the Chiefs were 2 years ago. The Chiefs were winning all those one touchdown, one score games.
Field goals at the gun.
You know, clanking off by the opponent, all that. That was the Cardinals the first 2 months this year. Everything was going right. They were winning a lot of 4-3, 3-2 type games. That all evens out in the end, and I think it's evened out. And you know, Jordan Walker hasn't come out blazing since the home run derby. He's the guy that Burleson's not been real hot since what, the start of July, I think.
He's getting his hits, but they aren't key. Yeah. There's nothing really going on for him to produce. You mentioned Jordan Walker, and what brought this to mind was the fact that everything going right for the team. Mm-hmm. He hit into a double play in Arizona, but he didn't really hit into it. It was manufactured. Infield's in the 10th inning. He hits a bloop that normally would have dropped in front of the shortstop. He might have been thrown out, but it was caught on the fly. And the runner on first, Brian Torres, is doubled off. Now, these are the breaks of the game that were going their way in the first half. And now they have come back, and as you mentioned, accurately so, hey, it all evens out in 162 games.
They now refer to that play as the Real Muto, the JT Real Muto play. Did you see last night?
Last night?
Yeah.
No, what did he do?
Well, the Dodgers beat the Phillies 2-1 on a game-ending double play where they got, is it Justin Crawford? It's Carl Crawford's kid. He got caught up in a rundown between they had runners, I believe, second and third, one out, you know, down 2-1, chance to win the game. Crawford gets caught up in a rundown from third to home on a ground ball in the infield. Tries to stay in it long enough for Real Muto to get to third. Real Muto's at third. He's standing right there. For whatever reason, he turns and runs back to second.
Oh, no.
And after they tag out Crawford, I think Mookie Betts throws it to second, the tag's on, and ball game over. And JT just said, I just blanked out, you know, bad base running and stuff, but it ended the game, and so sounds like kind of the same thing. You know,
and JT Real Muto he's a fine, you know, his dad played here for the Bears back in the 70s.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, under Coach Cotton. I'm sorry, it may have been under Rowe, but whatever the case was, he did play here, but not very much. He was a bit player.
The thing with the Cardinals now, if they're going to get into this kind of a lull, which it appears that they are, sometimes you need to call up fresh blood and you know, kind of a little bit of a jolt to your lineup and see what the young guys do. Quinn Matthews sitting down there in Memphis, he's 4-3 with a 3.39 ERA. He struck out 101 in 85 innings. He's a high fourth round draft pick. He's performed at every level, former Stanford pitcher. It may be time to bring him up and just, you know, give one of those guys, give Liberatore a break or give somebody a break in that rotation. Or I think it more likely is if they can trade Dustin May, that may be Quinn Matthews' audition spot.
And I'm going to make an addition to that. I don't think it's if. I think it's when they trade him.
Was he making $12 million? Wasn't that right? The highest paid?
$12 million, and he is a free agent. They're not going to re-sign him. So, hey, deal him away, get something for him.
We talked to Rob Raines about this last week, and you know, I mentioned that sometimes with these guys, when they have such a big start to the season in AA or AAA, you kind of need to move them a little bit so they don't get bored or they don't fall into bad habits after the hot streak. I think Joshua Baez is there. I mean, he's kind of stuck now on 29 homers, 73 ribbies, has 15 stolen bases, but his batting average has dropped to 244. And I know there's a lot of swing and miss concern there with him because he is a strikeout machine, but when he hits it, ball go far, and it goes really far. And maybe that's the kind of kid that, you know, maybe you need to send one of those outfielders down or trade a Newt Bar to kind of clear up the glut that you've got in the major league level now and just bring the kid up and see what he does, because there's guys that come up and light it on fire, and there's guys that come up and struggle and have to go back. That's why you have a minor league system, isn't it?
Well, there's no question about it. That's the whole basis on what you're doing is teaching the guy the game. Now, you can make mistakes with people by doing that, and I think they did with Jordan Walker, and we talked about that here. Walker's a natural hitter. Don't know about Baez yet because this is really, well, he was good here. He was good with the Springfield Cardinals, but up in Memphis, he's had kind of a breakout year.
Yeah.
Now, how long and how consistent will that be? That remains to be seen.
Now, he's only 22 or 23, I think, maybe 21. I think he's older than 21, but he's a guy that, you know, he's going to be their future, and he's going to be a big part of it with that power back because he's a guy that they project as a 35-homer guy a year.
That's if he can continue with it.
Yeah, and so I think at some point, maybe between now and the trade deadline or just right after it, maybe he gets his shot to come up and do it as well. So finish up the series with the Angels today. We mentioned it's Reed Detmers. I think the Cardinals, they have Hunter Dobbins listed. I listened to the Ricky Horton Cardinals update here on the station, and they said to be determined. So maybe it's a bullpen game all the way around for the Cardinals today. But now 51-49 on the season.
When they come home tomorrow, they have a single game, and it's a late afternoon game. It's a makeup game with the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are heading east. They're going to Washington. And they're most unhappy about having to stop in St. Louis for one game. But, again, hey, that's part of baseball, and you make them up. And
then the Reds come in. That's going to be a big series because that's going to tell you a lot about this Cardinal team. If you thought you'd handle the Angels, you think you'd handle the Reds. If you don't, then that definitely pushes you, I think, into full bore. Okay, let's see what we can get for these veteran guys that are making a lot of money.
Well, there was some hope that perhaps they could squeeze in, and there still is for that matter, into the wild card circumstance, but the Cardinals have now surrendered third place. Pittsburgh's ahead of them, not by very much, maybe half a game or something like that. But it's the Brewers, the Cubs, the Pirates, and the Cardinals. They're going to have to get well here pretty quick.
And what do all those other teams have that the Cardinals don't? They have an ace. So if you get into a one-and-done playoff situation, wild card, I don't know who the Cardinals would throw. Especially if they trade May, I don't know who it would be because every one of their guys. Well, I mean, he's got a 5.19 ERA. Kyle Leahy's pitched better than him lately, and then you just look up and down that pitching rotation, and guys have been good at different times throughout the year. So it would be tough, but I think the Cardinals brass is smart enough to even if we get a wild card berth, are we built to sustain a series if we got past the initial round?
With this team, probably not. Yeah. But I think this guy Bloom, the general manager, is doing a very good job with them and bringing in and nurturing the young talent so that they could perhaps rapidly develop into a consistent team, and that's the key, if they can play consistent baseball. And you see Mr. Mozeliak, he's out with the Angels.
Yeah, and wearing his paisley and everything. I kind of gag a little bit, And you mentioned it goes back to the Jordan Walker thing. I mean, that was a guy that had a 13-game hitting streak to start his career, and then they sent him down. Mm-hmm. There was no reason to do that, and I think that set him back mentally for a season or two, just trying to figure out, what am I doing? What do I need to change? How do I change it? All that going on. Coming up on break here in a second, the Royals do win 3-2 over the Giants last night. Luinder Avila pitches very well, 6 strong innings, strikes out 7. They did lose Jack Caglione with a shoulder discomfort after trying to make a diving catch. Vinny P with 2 hits. Royals have won 5 of 6 now since coming back from the All-Star break. They finished up the series with the Giants 1-10 first pitch today. Landon Roop and Seth Lugo in that one. Then the Royals head to Detroit for 4. And that's a Tigers team that's kind of like the Cardinals. Are we in? Are we not in? They'll find out. I mean, they should.
And what's going to happen to Skubal?
Yeah, exactly. And do they trade him? Do they not trade him? So
this kid, Alvin, incidentally, is a rookie. That's why you've never heard of him before. But this is his first ever quality start. Yeah. And it's a very, very good job by him. He's going to be a good pitcher. Not that he isn't already.
And they like his prospects. I mean, he's getting better every time out, too. Before we go to break, Cardinals dropped the series opener in Northwest Arkansas down in Springdale 6-2, fall back into a tie for first place in the Texas League North with Tulsa. Cardinals have dropped 3 of 4 games now since the All-Star break. They'll be back at it tonight through Sunday, then off Monday, then back home next week to play Wichita here for 6 in Texas League play.
And this is the starting lineup. We'll be back in just a second. And we very much appreciate your being with us on the starting lineup. Invite your calls at 447-1021. Of course, area code is 417. Ned Reynolds with
Scott Purrier.
Fire away.
A couple other baseball notes before we move on. The Red Sox rained out yesterday. They will go for a franchise record-tying 15 straight win in a day-night doubleheader today. The Orioles coming up to Fenway. And then the Yankees get a boost. They get Max Fried back. He's been out since mid-May with a bone bruise. He comes back to their rotation tonight as well. And that's a Yankees team. I believe they're a game and a half behind the Rays in the AL East. And, if they get healthy, of course, they've missed Aaron Judge now for almost a month and a half.
And he is on the 60-day list. Yeah. I'm wondering if he comes back this season.
I think their plan is, and all these teams now, the MLB is kind of becoming a little bit like the NBA. With those maintenance days that they schedule for guys. You look at what the Brewers did with the Miz, and he only goes 4 innings in his first game. They said he's not going to start this weekend. Get used to that, Brewers fans, because you have a big lead. They need Jacob Misiorowski for the playoffs, and they're going to do everything they can to save that arm. From now until
4 innings, I think.
Yeah, and 65 pitches, and that's going to be the norm, I think, for him going forward. So
I would fully agree with you because they stand a chance of doing some really good things in the playoffs. They're a good team. Brewers, they may not be physically quite as strong as Los Angeles, but by the same token, they can play, and they can play consistently well. And when you have Misiorowski throwing what he does, you have a big weapon there.
The football, we talk about, Coach Ken Locke, our late buddy, used to say thump, thump around the corner. Well, football's around the corner because it's media days. Big 12 was last week. SEC is going on down in Tampa. Conference USA wrapped up yesterday down in Arlington at the Texas Live facility. Coach Casey Woods took the stage as the Bears coach for the first time. And I want to give kudos to Ryan Collingwood of the Citizen and Liam Keating, the new reporter for the News Leader. Both did a really good job, and they're the feet on the ground for guys like us to get the words and the wisdom from the people down there. Some of the things I watched their stories or their video reports and took away. The CUSA commissioner, is it McLeod or McLeod? Judy McLeod.
I think it's McLeod.
McLeod. She said the league is very happy with their 10 teams they have now. It's a very committed group working well together. Well, that tells you that, hey, see La Tech and
is that ever dancing around it?
Yeah. UTEP and La Tech gone. It's a 10-team league now. The nice thing is you can play everybody. You don't have the football game where you're not playing somebody in your league. But they're dangerously close. If one more of those teams bolts, and it's kind of like the transfer portal now. If you're in one of those leagues, you always think there may be greener pastures, which is why one of those two went to the Sun Belt and the other one went to the Mountain West. What is your plan if you drop to 9 or 8? And I don't know if they have one.
You have a very good point, too, because while it looks as though to the average fan that all of the shifting and changing of conferences and so forth has settled down a little bit, it hasn't, folks. There will be more coming up, especially if you see the SEC and the Big Ten abandon ship and begin their own league, which I hope fervently does not happen because that's the ruination of the game, in my opinion. But there will be other changes, other teams perhaps seeking new candidates for their league. I'll tell you, one of them's the American Conference.
Yeah.
And that's a good league.
And of course, now with budget issues because of revenue share and NIL and everything else out there, geographical location will start becoming more of a factor. Not for your footballs and basketballs as much, but all those other schools. When you got to fly a baseball team somewhere, you got to send your golfers or your volleyball team places that you're not generating. It's hard for you to say. The revenue, you got to figure out that whole equation too as well.
And the American Conference, which I just mentioned, also falls into that same grouping. And I'm going to give you an example. My school plays in there. They have to come out and play Tulsa and Wichita State, and that's just not an easy trip, folks. And you have all the sports to consider doing that.
It's just so bizarre that the Atlantic Coast Conference has
California.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And Stanford.
Yeah. Coach Woods was down there. The two Bears players down were Jaron Askren, the sophomore tight end who had a big freshman year, and then fifth-year linebacker Jared Lloyd. Coach Woods kind of taken away from his interviews. It looked like one of the things that he wants to focus on is finding a starting quarterback sooner rather than later so they can start getting some continuity with the first team and that guy. We'll get into this after our next guest a little bit, but The Athletic, which is, of course, is owned by the New York Times now, did a ranking of quarterbacks 1 through 138 nationally, the starting quarterbacks, and ranked them. And the Bears, the Locklear kid, they've got him listed as the possible or likely starter from Missouri State there. We'll get into those rankings here in a little bit. But anyway, Coach.
Who, just out of curiosity, is Sayin from Ohio State the number one?
Trinidad Chambliss.
Oh, Chambliss
from Ole Miss, yeah.
Who shouldn't be playing, but he is, and he's number one.
Yeah, and the interesting thing to me is all we've had shoved down our throats for the last 3 years is Arch. Arch Manning's not in their top 5. He's listed as actually number 7 ranked quarterback going in.
Is that right?
It's Chambliss, Dante Moore from Oregon, C.J. Carr from Notre Dame, the Miami quarterback transfer Mensa, and then Ohio State Sayin is number 5. And
number 5.
Number 5.
Hey, watch out. He's better than that.
Yeah, so we'll get into that list a little bit after our next guest. But SEC Media Days continued, and they continue on today and tomorrow to wrap up. Yesterday was yesterday was Auburn with their new coach, Alex Golish, came in from South Florida, Vandy, South Carolina, and Georgia. Today, Bama, Ole Miss, Florida, and Texas A&M. And Thursday, finishing with a bang, LSU, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Texas. The Lane Kiffin, that should be, Lane's always a good Mike bit there and drop for people to run with his quotes, and so he'll be on the stage tomorrow.
Now, the list that you put them in there, that's not necessarily their order that they'll be speaking.
No. I think Kiffin is first tomorrow, though. But Bama's today, and of course that'll be he's on the hot seat. DeBoer and
you think so?
Well, I think they keep re-upping, but it's Bama. And you follow Nick Saban, and 9-3 or 9-4 is not going to fly for very long.
No, but it does keep him around. It may put him on the hot seat, as you just pointed out, but he's still there, and DeBoer has a great record going for him. He was not able to expand on it last year, but I think they're looking at Phil Steele has them as a surprise team this year.
Yeah, they got to find a starting quarterback, which it seems like they do every year. But I think though that the way they ended with Indiana wasn't pretty. That game, and their fans
38-3.
Yeah, they don't like being embarrassed like that
in the Rose Bowl, for heaven's sake.
One last, let's mention this real quick. We got some media stuff to get to, but ESPN massive layoffs this week. Most of them yesterday. Carl Ravitch, who's been there forever,
1993.
Tom Pelissaro, NFL reporter, who's very good. Ryan Clark got canned on Monday, and did you see that story? How he got canned?
I did.
Yeah, during a commercial break while they're taping NFL Live, they go over and tell him he's being let go.
You're not coming back.
Yeah, and he's not on the show the rest of the show. And the reason was it had leaked out to the media that Clark was getting fired, and ESPN, with their kind hearts, didn't want him to find out through the media that he'd been let go. So they just go tell him during a commercial break. And I'm not a big Ryan Clark fan. He's condescending to, his thing with them was Peter Schrager, one of their new guys, used to be NFL Network. He basically pulled the "well, you never played" card on him on air live one day, which to me is the most ridiculous. Well, you never put on a chin strap and all that. It's the weakest argument out there.
Well, we'll take a quick break. All you guys who will be back in the next segment, take a step forward. Not so fast.
Yeah, Ryan, hey, can you go back and turn your key fob in to here during the break? You're done. So, and of course, ESPN, the main thing with this, and we'll ask Art his thoughts in the next hour, but you're paying Pat McAfee $60 million. You're paying Stephen A. Smith $21 million. You're letting go of a lot of people that are making probably less than $1 million. Could you not maybe cut back? Because I'm not a big McAfee fan.
I'm going to ask you that question right there. What do you think of him?
I like him better than Stephen A. Stephen A. is just annoying.
A is playing the race card.
But McAfee is so look at me
That's what it is.
With everything.
It's an ego-oriented, nonstop talking about himself and all these things that he does. And the guy's a fair player and all that sort of thing, but to this level,
he was a punter.
$60 million?
Yeah,
Come on.
And, College Game Day, he takes over that show in the morning with everything. He's supposed to be the loud. He's the Chuck Booms of the Game Day cast, and say something rambunctious and do something and wear a Speedo and jump off a high dive. And you're not going to see Nick Saban in a Speedo jumping off a high dive, but McAfee will. So
what you would get out of Chuck Booms being on that show is some good laughs.
And probably FCC violations, too. So, yeah. Let's take a break and welcome in our guest.
Time out on the starting lineup, but we'll be right back. And the starting lineup brought to you by Play It Again Sports, by Citizens Bank of Rogersville, by Swing Right Golf, and by Marshfield Chevrolet. At Reynolds with
Scott Purrier.
Introduce our guest, if you will.
Special guest is one of the head honchos. I don't know if you guys have titles with that group or not, but one of the founders and chief fundraisers for the Southwest Missouri. What am I saying? Missouri State Football Players Association. I was trying to call you SMS again here like 25 years later.
Your degree is from SMS.
My degree is from SMS, but Trevor Crist is in studio with us. Of course, business people know him as the head honcho at Nixon and Lindstrom Insurance. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning. Appreciate you guys having me.
You bet. Wanted to kind of bring in, number one, announce a change in date of the Casey Woods dinner, which is a fundraiser. It was supposed to be this Friday night. But then number two, to kind of talk more about what you guys do as an association behind the scenes, because I know there's a lot of guys. Kirk Elmquist is one of your partners in crime. Dennis Heim, Nathan Stokes, a friend of mine that does things. You guys all work together basically to give the football team a little bit of a pot to play with in terms of trying to keep guys in this new NIL world. I know Ned and I talked about you guys had a very successful, again, fundraiser golf tournament, Twin Oaks, this summer. Kind of tell us where you guys are on your events this year, and first of all, talk about the new date for the dinner.
Yeah, so each year, last couple of years, we've done a kickoff dinner with the coach and their wife. So this year, Lauren Woods will be the host of that dinner, and we will do it on Friday, August 28th, over at the Darr Center off of Kansas Expressway at 6:00 p.m. And it's a fun evening. It's going to be a little bit different format this year. Coach plans on having everybody come in. There'll be obviously dinner and beverages. He's going to introduce his coaching staff, talk a little bit about what they're doing at each position, locally and nationwide. And in addition to that, what really sets us apart is we do a world-class auction with several very, very unique items.
Trevor, this is kind of interesting for him, too, because Coach Woods was an assistant at Southern Methodist. This is a head coaching job, his first ever, and an appeal like this as as kind of a preview to the season. How's he anticipating it?
Well, he's looking forward to it. Like I said, he is really wants this to be an opportunity to showcase his coaching staff that he brought together. This is an entirely new coaching staff that came together very, very shortly after Coach Woods was recruited to Missouri State. And so, I think they've done a great job of coming together. He looks forward to introducing them to the community, letting them talk about what they kind of their background, their history, but in addition to that, what they've been doing from a recruiting standpoint in the off season.
My opinion means nothing, but I think it's a great move from you guys off this Friday night to a Friday night that's basically a week before the season opener. Interest with football, it just starts, rising and rising the closer you get to that opening kickoff. You're going to capture people when they're in the throes of Bears football excitement, the A&M game the next weekend on Labor Day down at Kyle Field. This Friday night. So people are tuning in going, I thought that was this Friday night. There's just so many things going on. I mean, lake time for people on the weekend, vacations. Was that kind of the factor in this? Let's get it back to a time where maybe we get more people that are back in the routine and can do something on a Friday night?
Exactly. We have had a tremendous amount of interest and excitement, and then some of our main sponsors that help us put this thing on were like, hey, we want to be a part of this, but we may not be able to attend because we've got several conflicts. And we thought, well, that's kind of against the spirit of the event. So in talking to the coach, he wanted to keep it before the season started because we'd even talked about changing it up and doing it after the season had kicked off. He was passionate about keeping this before the season actually gets underway. And so we've moved it to that date when we think more and more people will be able to be there.
Trevor, when you talk about a dinner like this, and you have mentioned there will be food served, who does the cooking?
Well, so this year...
Trevor does.
So this year, moving it out to the Darr Center, one of the reasons we did that was to be able to have additional capacity. So this event, had been hosted the last couple of years at one of our private supporters' homes, and we had just fortunately outgrown the space with their support, and were spilling outside in the middle of summer, extreme heat, and still had a great time. But this year, We're going to end up moving it, going to have capacity for about 200 people. That's a growth from 150 of last year. And so along with that, doing it at the Darr Center, Ned, back to your original question, is Cantwell's actually, which is the Missouri State catering department through their hospitality department, will be providing the dinner that evening. And if you've ever had them do an event, they do just a spectacular job.
It's great to see Jackson Cantwell putting that NIL money to use already. He started a catering business
and coming back from Miami to do it.
Exactly. He'll be flipping burgers there that night if you want to
advertise it.
Yeah. Trevor, we've talked about it a lot with you on here as well. If you guys don't do what you do, Missouri State, in our opinion, doesn't do what they did last fall. And that was the breakthrough season. First year in FBS level, first year in Conference USA, to go out and win 7 games, go to a bowl game, all that was keyed by the fact that Missouri State was able to keep Jacob Clark here in town.
Yep.
A veteran quarterback, a very good quarterback, was just really the central figure to everything they did last year when he was healthy. That's the importance, I think. If you guys are trying to sell the Players Association out to new members and stuff, that to me is a feather in your cap, is if Jacob Clark leaves and you guys are playing either a freshman quarterback or a career backup, I don't know that you win 7 games. And kind of talk about that process and how you guys – that's what the golf tournament's for. That's what the dinner's for, is it not? Is to give that head coach something to play with when a Jacob Clark gets called by other schools and says, hey, come play for us.
Absolutely. To this point, we've been proud that as rev share has grown at Missouri State, to this point, the Missouri State Football Players Association that we're talking about this morning has funded the majority of that NIL effort to this point. And we're proud that we've been able to grow the program to the level that it's at. And as you said, we had some players that we maybe would have lost in their, specifically the ones that were going into their final seasons. Mm-hmm. And, through the NIL and through the supporters of our Missouri State Football Player Association, we were able to go to them and kind of entice them to stay here and help us grow the program. And the nice thing is it's been a really, really strong dovetail into what Biff and Patrick are doing over there at Missouri State. And they've grown the rev share. I think they said last year may have been the first year we've ever made money on parking for football games. And so they're seeing success in a lot of ways. They're now allowing them to grow their efforts and work alongside us.
Do you make the Football Players Association much more of a universal appeal around Southwest Missouri? Can anybody be a member of it?
Yeah, anyone can participate and support, absolutely. MissouriStateFootball.org is our website. Once again, that's MissouriStateFootball.org, and anyone can go on there and look at the different fundraisers, because we want as many people involved as possible. I think that's the most fun part of the organization, is it gives the fan and the supporter a way to be even further involved with the football program. And so we'd love people to come out. We have information on there about our annual golf tournament, this kickoff dinner that we're talking about this morning that's on August 28th, and then also the packages that we offer supporters of the FPA for our tailgate experience throughout the season, which is at all home games.
Now, Trevor, we're speaking here in relative terms. You're relatively new to the area, so you don't remember when Missouri State football or Southwest Missouri State football was a limited draw from the attendance standpoint. It isn't now. Tell us a little bit about how you've seen the ticket sales increase and so forth and so on.
Well, Ned, as I've always told people, so I moved here in '96 to go to SMS, which Scott was talking about when we first came on air. That's also where my degree's from. And I always tell people the most depressing day of my life was my first SMS football game.
Yeah.
Because, I moved down here from Lincoln, Nebraska, saw a little bit of a different college football game day experience. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't for me and the band to be the only people on the east side of the stadium. And so to see what it has grown into, to see, we were talking to Patrick the other day, historic numbers on season tickets sold, and to see that stadium almost sold out for a couple games last year was extremely exciting.
Who was the first game?
I don't remember who my very first game was. I need to go back and look at that.
If it was 96, it might have been the Pitt State loss on a Thursday night.
You know what? It may have been.
Del Miller's debut, which was the start of Del Miller and I going south on our relationship, one game in.
And the final score, I think, was 9-8 or whatever it was.
10-8 or 10-7.
Nowhere near that close.
Well, and I imagine, Trevor, you're sitting there in the stands. You're all excited. My new school. And it's third quarter starts. You try and go, where is everybody?
Yeah.
They all turned and went to back to the dorms and the fraternity rooms and everything, or fraternity houses. But Trevor, a change in head coach. You know, you guys had a great guy in Ryan Beard. He came on with us last week. Was obviously very complimentary of his time here and what you guys did and everybody else. Sometimes that transition from one guy to another can be bumpy, or expectations can be different. I don't know that they could have hit a bigger home run in getting somebody like Ryan Beard and getting a Casey Woods. Have you experienced that in your dealings with him now and everything you guys have done as a Players Association to try to meet what he wants?
Absolutely, and hopefully we are helping meet his expectations as well. He has been, Coach Woods has been amazing to work with in bringing him into the program. Whenever he calls or needs something, the answer is always yes, which is encouraging. And so the transition has been very, very favorable. And as you guys know, the other key there is that Texas pipeline. You know, I just love the fact that whenever we did the press conference and bring him in as the new head coach, everyone on the staff was wearing cowboy boots. And I think that says a lot.
You know, and forgive Trevor if he gets a little jittery for the next 5 or 10 minutes here, because
he's got his autograph book.
Yeah, his boyhood idol from Nebraska football days, Grant Wistrom, has arrived in studio a little early. Your bedroom, Trevor, I imagine, was just plastered with Grant Wistrom posters. Even while you were here at Missouri State, starting your student career here.
Was?
Is, yeah. You have a Wistrom shrine in the house somewhere, I would think.
Yeah, the wife loves the Wistrom jersey in the main bedroom. You know.
Just call me Grant. Wanted to ask you, and again, we're talking about Casey Woods, and the thing I've been impressed with is first-time head coach, all these new media responsibilities. The guy's handled it like an ace from day one. You know, put a microphone in front of him. He knows what to say. He knows how to say it. Have you noticed that as well? When you guys have a golf tournament and this first-time head coach has to get up and speak in front of all your donors, he's probably nailed it, hadn't he, every time?
Yeah, he's a true professional, as you've seen, and that's one of the reasons we were so excited to get him. Coming from a school like SMU and him seeing that next level, that was our goal, was to bring in a coach that could, continue the momentum that Ryan had started here, and not take a step back and retrain somebody. Wanted somebody bringing that experience to us as well, and being able to move us along as a community and supporters of the program. And Casey has certainly done that. You saw that at the event that you put on that we brought him out to. Mm-hmm. He's just very, very good at the community interaction and the promoting of his program.
He's interesting, too, because that game, the Southern Methodist game, first time that a big-time headline team has ever played here, was so unbelievably hot. And I asked him, I said, Casey, you come up here and you have to say to yourself, what the hell are we doing here? He said, never entered our mind. He said, we knew a game had to be played. We're going out there and play it as well as we can, and therein lies the story. I was very impressed with that answer. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, Trevor, and it just really makes no sense. You're a Nebraska native. You're a Nebraska fan growing up. You leave that area to come here to SMS in the mid-'90s when Grant and all his black shirts and national championships and all that was going on. What were you thinking?
Well, I moved down here to follow family to the area, and
so there is a reason.
There is a reason, yeah. And people always think that I'm a Nebraska native just because I won't shut up about Nebraska.
So you never lived there? Or?
But yeah, I lived there all the way through junior high school, and during a lot of the as those successful years were starting. But I grew up elementary school age down in Webb City, Missouri, and that's oh
my God, no wonder the love for Grant. It's double here. Yeah.
Well, we joke about that all the time. I tell people Grant's been stalking me since I was 5 years old. We've lived in 3 cities together. We've lived in Webb City, Lincoln, and Springfield, which is kind of a unique connection. So I came down here to go to SMS, be closer to family, and was proud to do it. I love the community. And as I always tell people, what my experience in Lincoln, specifically during those times, taught me is that if it's done right, a sport, specifically football, can be the front door to an entire community and that pride. And we were a long way from it whenever I came here in 1996. And to be a part of that with the Missouri State Football Players Association and see the success that we've had on the campus and the way that has increased the success for a lot of other parts of Missouri State at the profile level as well. Playing 3 games last year on Wednesdays, I think did a tremendous service to the university. That exposure of being the only thing on TV goes a long way. And so, just kind of translating that excitement, that enthusiasm of what a football town can do for a local community, and be able to do that here has been a big deal.
Now there will be a Lindstrom on the field wearing the maroon and white for Missouri State. Does the entire Lindstrom company come out there and support this kid?
We absolutely do. That's kind of where a little bit of this started. We've been trying to get, Scott and I have talked about this as well. I tried to get Kellen back here for a couple years. Obviously he played at Tennessee. And, I started kind of talking to his family earlier in the season as he was looking for different opportunities. And he had seen the change in success as well at Missouri State over the last couple years and the level of the program and competition, and saw that as an opportunity for him to be able to come back and grow as a player and be able to positively impact his local university. And so I think he's enjoying his time over there greatly. He's going to be on the field a lot, I'm hopeful for, and it makes it a lot easier for the family as well, being able to go to home games in Springfield, rather than Tennessee.
Well, Trevor, we appreciate you coming in. Save me a couple wristbands per home game.
I will.
That's the area that and we get to see Ned walk by. It's like watching Bigfoot walk by.
But
in front of you
what he never offers when I do walk by there? A beverage.
Well, because they don't have your beverage down there.
That's all right.
They do my personal tailgate though, and I don't know that he's ever walked by my car without stopping.
Is that right? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you. We talk about the fundraising you guys do, but on game days, you guys have a pretty nice little tailgate set up there at the north end zone, just outside the gates. Is that continuing on this year?
It is. We'll be right there at the north end of the stadium in Bearfest Village. The Missouri State Football Player Association. We partner with Old Missouri Bank and Will Fisher, and the tailgate includes food and beverage as well. It's a pretty big setup. I think we're going to have to expand it again this year. We doubled the size last year. We'll probably have to do it again this year, and we're there every game.
And I've noticed at those when I've been, Kirk Ompus just kind of stands back in a corner and doesn't talk to anybody, does he?
He does not. He's kind of a shy guy by nature.
Yeah. Ned, you would confirm that.
Will he be shy on the final game of the season when we play his alma mater here?
Yeah, we're hosting Liberty right here in Springfield. That's going to be exciting.
What will he wear that day, I wonder?
I don't know. He may end up hiding a Liberty belt or something, but he's pretty burgundy and white these days.
Do you want to tell Grant I love you or anything before we let you go here?
I'll probably do that off air.
Off air. All right. Trevor, thanks for coming in again. New date is Friday, August 28th for the Casey Woods dinner out at the Darr Center. Rescheduled from this Friday. Good luck, and they can get tickets where?
MissouriStateFootball.org.
Very good. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And we will take a break. Be back in a second. And those Cardinals play this afternoon right here at 102.1 against the Los Angeles Angels. Final game of what's been a dismal series. Fire away, man. What do we have?
Second hour coming up. Our guest is here, Grant Wistrom, the former Webb City, Nebraska NFL standout. Going to visit with us about training camp, new venture he's got in town, a lot more of that. And then 8:30, Cam Stratton, the former Glendale standout, had a big season at Crowder, is committed to Eastern Kentucky baseball. We'll talk to him at 8:30 in the next hour.
With that, we will tell you we are taking our mid-show timeout. Brief break, and then back with the second segment. Please, folks, stay right where you are.